McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles in the overworld. Now for a limited time, you can get one of 6 McDonald's collectibles when you order a Minecraft movie meal. Ooh. With your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce. Available now in a biome near you. Oh, and at your local McDonald's. At participating McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theaters.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
So, again, it goes back to your brand. So if you can show the USPTO consumers identify this word with my brand and you have the receipts to back it up, then you can get it registered. And so when your attorney did your trademark for you guys, you had to show the USPTO specimen. I like to call it receipts, right, or proof of use. So you can't just file a trademark and get it registered just because you want to. Mm-hmm. You have to show them, hey, I'm using this in commerce.
Them niggas scared to make that move. Can't relate to that. I roll the dice, shit. If I lose, I'm gonna be shaking back. Cause lessons learned within the loss just elevate the fact that trial and error just the only way. Ain't no escaping that. I wake up, hit 100 push-ups, then I'm at my route. Check on my stocks, see how they looking, then I'm sliding out. When you start seeing your progression, you stop having doubts. And what's the point of having clout if you can't cash it out? True to this game, and I'm a lifer, ayy. Feel like we finna change the cycle, ayy. That's the most success, you know we thriving, ayy. That's the most depression for our rivals, ayy. Could teach a lesson on survival, ayy. You know I'm from the bottom.
What up with it, my wealthy people? It is your boy, David Bellard, one of the founders of Black Wealth Renaissance. Here with my brother from another, Jalen. What's good with you, Clap?
What's good with it, my brother? Man, stop telling my nickname to the world. Shit.
Man, you done got about 6 different nicknames on this motherfucker, man.
I know, man, but I'm doing great, dog. How you doing, man?
Bro, I'm doing well, man. You already know. I'm doing better than well. I'm doing fantastic. I've been juicing. My energy's right. You know what I'm saying? I've been watching the dude, what's the dude? The Duties dude. Yeah, you got me all pumped up, man. But no, I'm feeling good, bro. Mind's clear, ready to have an awesome conversation about some very important topics, especially coming into 2024 for business owners.
Yeah, I'm ready and excited for this as well.
Indeed,
I know this year is going to be very pivotal, especially if you're about to start new businesses, but just in general, just to make sure that you have everything straight, everything situated. And I'm excited to have this episode.
Yes, sir.
Coming
yes,
up.
Sir. So look. Before I get to introducing the guest, y'all already know what y'all got to do for your boy. Make sure you leave us that 5-star rating and review. It helps us grow the show and get information out there to people who need it. Now, as promised, y'all, we got another fire episode for y'all today. We have a lovely young lady on from Chicago that is doing law out here in Dallas. Candice Shantell Patrick. She is the owner of Shantell Law PLCC, PLLC. I be fucking it up, but I be getting it right sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But listen, y'all, she's a business and contract attorney, and she's doing a damn thing out here in Dallas. So we had to bring her on so that we can have this conversation. Welcome, Candice, to the show.
Yay! Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you so much.
Well, we gotta bring the claps back,
yeah,
man. I want to hit. I need a lot of ambiance. You know,
I got you. We're gonna get it together.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us, Candice. So I know I just gave like a super brief intro to you. For our audience listening, can you just introduce them to yourself?
Absolutely. So Candice S. Patrick, most people know me on social media as Attorney Candice. I handle business law primarily, but I do a few different areas, particularly divorces and personal injury. And I got into those areas because my business clients would start getting into trouble, needing divorces, getting into car accidents. So I started helping them out, and that way I expanded my law firm. I'm from the south side of Chicago, graduated from Northern Illinois University College of Law. And when it was time for me to take the bar, I decided I wanted to be somewhere warm, and so I kind of mapped out.
Came on down the side around here. Yeah, you made a good decision.
Yeah, I was like, man, I'm not trying to be in a snowsuit going to court. I would rather be cute. So I made the decision to move to the great state of Texas, and Dallas won the fight between Dallas and Houston.
A good decision.
Yeah, I said I'll go to Dallas, and I've been here ever since. And when I first got here, I was trying to get into a major law firm, right? Because in school, that's what they teach you, right? They're preparing you to go to major law firms. And then all throughout law school, I worked for the university's Office of General Counsel, which is a very prestigious position. So that's what I was looking for. But when I came down here, I met my first legal mentor in Dallas, and he kept encouraging me to start my own firm. So he kept saying, man, when I was your age, I started my own firm. Like, he just kept telling me to do it, right? And so interesting story. It's probably not best for an introduction, but ask me about it later. So I basically got pushed into starting my own law firm. You want me to talk about it?
Yeah, come on, why not? What better time than now?
I really was going to, you're touching on some stuff I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Because I thought you may have worked for a big firm first, but you went straight into your own firm.
I went straight in. Now, while I was in Chicago, I did work for some firms throughout Chicago, but it wasn't like a major employment. It was like through law school, and like right after graduating, I was doing work helping out some firms. But as far as like moving to Texas where I'm licensed, I started working as like an independent contractor for a firm, and I was helping out kind of with like attorney bonds, right? So when people go to jail in Texas, you guys know people can go to jail for anything. You get a speeding ticket and you don't go to court, they'll issue a warrant for your arrest. And so I was making decent money when I first moved here, just showing up and signing off on attorney bonds for people to get out. And I knew that obviously that's not what I wanted to do. I just was trying to make some money and figure out my direction. Where am I about to work? And at the same time, I was interviewing for different law firms. So the story is this. The owner of that firm that I was doing the independent contracting work for, he wanted me to become a salaried employee. So he scheduled a meeting with me in his office, and I will never forget it. It was him, and it was his assistant, who was an older white lady in the office. And he basically started talking to me kind of talking down to me in a way, because he was trying to prep me to accept his offer, right? And so he had never even looked at my resume or anything. Someone else hired me, right? So he didn't really do his research to know who he was talking to. And so at the end of his whole spiel, he's like, yeah, so I want you to be salary and not an independent contractor. So at that time, I knew I didn't want to do criminal law, even though my background all through law school was heavily focused on criminal law. I knew I didn't want to be at his firm. I was just trying to find my way because I didn't secure a job before coming to Texas. I just jumped out here, right?
You just came here.
So I'm like, I'm just doing this to get some experience, to kind of see what's going on and make money. And so anyways, I was open to his offer, and I said, okay, well, what do you propose? And so he was offering me $30,000 a year.
What? Huh?
As a full salaried employee.
What?
And I was
with a law degree?
A law degree.
Kiss my ass.
This was 2018, guys.
That's my ass.
2018.
That's insane.
Insane. So imagine me
with a law degree.
With a law degree. But you have to understand, at that time, he had one other black female attorney who was salaried, and he worked her crazy. Me, I was an independent contractor, so I only took things that I wanted to take, right? And so imagine me sitting in that office, a new attorney, newly licensed, and you have a man of another race sitting across from you telling you this. And at the time he was telling it to me, he was trying to belittle me. So he was like, well, what are your goals? What is it you want to do? And I said, well, I want to work with business owners. I want to, get into the entertainment. And he's like, oh, you'll never be able to get into entertainment. Little did he know, I was already connected with high-level celebrities. Like, he didn't know who I was at that time. And so I was just sitting there listening to him, and I'm like, he's really trying to, I don't know if this worked with the other minority attorneys or what's, I'm new to Texas. So I'm like, what is going on in Texas?
Kind of like playing in your face on some shit.
I said, I made over $30,000 when I was in law school working for the Office of General Counsel. So needless to say, I rejected his offer. And
is that what pushed you to go ahead and start your own firm?
So I rejected his offer. I left the office that day. He texted me and said, hey, Candice, I really respect you. And then I went home that day and I prayed and I said, God, let me know when I need to go full force with my own law firm. Because I had already formed the company, but I hadn't, when you start your own business, you're afraid, right? So I was still relying on the income from this firm, right? So I prayed. I said, God, let me know, give me a sign when I should just go full force. By the end of that week, that was a Tuesday when I met with him. By the end of that week, that Friday, he told me if I was not going to accept his offer, then I could not work as an independent contractor for him. And I was the happiest person. I was like, this is my sign. And the next month, I made $30,000 that month at my firm.
So you just started like independently and
went on my own. Yep.
Damn.
So that was how I did it.
That's dope. That's dope. So
Yeah.
like you didn't initially want to start your own firm, but whenever you went ahead and did it, you were able to make 30 in that first month. That was the first month in your own firm. So like, okay, now I'm going somewhere different. Where were you getting clients from?
And it was crazy. So I always believed that like we have angels around us. We have, God guiding us. And I feel like that was definitely my case because here I was new to Texas. I had some friends of the family here that I knew, but I didn't have any like direct support here.
Yeah.
So what I would do is, one, I would post a lot on social media. So it was new for me to start posting about business law and stuff like that on Facebook, Instagram. And then whenever I found an opportunity where I felt like my target audience would be, I would go. So for example, if there was some type of networking event hosted by a sophisticated company, right, I would go to the networking event. I remember, I think it's Dave Ramsey, the guy for Shark Club. He hosted some type of event where he was trying to get people to join his team and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, business owners are going to be here, so I'm going. And sure enough, I was passing out my card, and people started calling me. And so that's how it happened. And then social media, people would just call me. People would start referring me. And then a lot of my friends and family back home in Chicago, from the moment I joined law school, before I could even practice, they were calling me. So I still had them sending me business and stuff like that, and it just started developing. Yeah, and I never looked back.
I do have a question. So you said in law school you were primarily focused on criminal law, but your desire was business and entertainment. Where'd that come from, and why'd you choose to focus on criminal but go the other way?
Yeah, that's a good question. I knew you guys were going to follow up on that. So growing up for me, I made up my mind that I wanted to do criminal defense because I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I have 4 brothers. So I was always seeing people involved in the criminal justice system to some degree. And then the attorney would be the person to save the day. So, for example, I had a very close childhood friend who got arrested for first-degree murder. And it almost broke my heart. But he had one of the top attorneys in Chicago. He paid him $50,000 cash, but he got found not guilty. Right? And I was 16 when that happened. So for me growing up, I saw criminal defense attorneys as power, people who are coming to save the community, to save the day. And then the second thing is I had no knowledge of the other areas of law. Just think about it as... That
was your exposure to law.
Yeah, just think about our exposure growing up. You just think of law and order when you think about attorneys, right?
Yeah.
You don't really think about like business, entertainment. So that was my exposure. And so I was very passionate about it because I had that community connection. So when I went to law school, it was easy for me to ace criminal law, right? So like every criminal class I took, I aced it. Like it was just natural for me to understand the law and to know how to navigate it. However, remember I was telling you earlier, your second and third year, you get to start picking your own classes. So second and third year, I wanted to be taught by 2 of the only Black professors in the law school. One taught business law, one taught entertainment law, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I cannot graduate without saying I sat before these most honorable Black distinguished professors. You know what I mean? And so even though I wasn't necessarily interested in business or entertainment per se, I just wanted the experience of them teaching me. And I fell in love with it. And not only did I fall in love with it, we have 60 to 100 students in each class. I got the highest grade on the exam for each of those classes. So that's how into it I was.
Yeah, you was locked in.
Yeah, I was like, for me to be taught by a Black professor, and then we had very distinguished professors, UCLA graduates, New York law, like just high level Harvard law professors. So it was an honor for me. So that second and third year, when I took those 2 courses, it kind of started showing me another lens of how I could practice law. Then when I finally graduated, I got more experience handling my own criminal cases. And so at that time, I was practicing in a city called Rockford in Illinois.
I've actually heard of Rockford.
You heard of Rockford?
One of our friends was at school there.
Okay. And I felt like there was a huge economic and racial imbalance in the criminal court system. Mm-hmm. So I kind of felt like regardless of how good I was as an attorney,
because you're always going to have to fight that bias.
Yeah, it was like because my client is black with tattoos all over his face, he's getting different treatment from the judge.
Guilty.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I told myself, you need to think long and hard about the future of your career. What do you want to do every single day? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want to be depressed. To a degree, criminal defense is kind of depressing because you're dealing with people's livelihoods, mm-hmm. right? If you make one mistake, or if you get an all-white jury, or whatever the case.
Like you said, you put your all into it, and this person still gets the verdict that you don't want. That's depressing. Yeah. It's like, damn, like I really gave this my all. I put what I could into it, and now it's nothing. Whereas like I could see on the business side,
it's exciting.
It's a lot more different. Yeah, too. It's like we're not dealing with you going to jail for a criminal offense. We're dealing with how we're gonna structure this deal, how we're gonna make something positive occur. I could see how that would help.
Yep. So that was my decision. Once I had those experiences, and I really sat down and thought, I said, man, I would love to wake up every day and talk to business owners and help them strategize on, growing and protecting their businesses. And that's what I did.
I love it. So now I kind of want to get into it. We talk about growing and protecting businesses. Yeah. One of the buzzword topics that have been going on recently, the Corporate Transparency Act. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, the Corporate Transparency Act, you got to watch out for it. We actually put out a blog on it just to kind of clear out some things. But I would love to talk about it with you, right? Because that's something that it can be an actual concern for business owners if you're not aware of the laws that are changing. So like, and correct me if I'm wrong on anything, starting January 1st, 2024, any entity registered this year needs to register with FinCEN, right? The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. Mm-hmm. And if you're a business that was existing prior to then, we have until January 1st of 2025.
Right.
And but with businesses, they have 90 days. Correct?
90 days, right.
New businesses have 90 days. So from January 1st to March 30th, the 31st, that's when they got their time, right? Or March 30th, yeah.
Time out, I just want to make sure. It's 90 days from the day that you were incorporated,
right? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, yeah, because obviously.
So for business incorporated January 1st, 2024, then your deadline in March would be correct.
Gotcha. So and for the businesses that are already incorporated, like ours, yourself, we have until January 5th of 2025. Now, when it comes to the fines and stuff like that, that's where I see like it get kind of wonky. I've seen people say $10,000. I've seen people say $500 a day. Can we just kind of get into this whole Corporate Transparency Act and clear this shit up so that people can stop being like, oh, they coming for us,
Yeah. So I did a post about this as well, and I was more kind of like jovial with people because I feel like people calm down. So it's another layer of protection for the federal government, if you will, against scammers and schemers and stuff like that, trying to hide behind these different LLCs and stuff.
So what else? Are you telling me the PPP loans is what spawned this?
It could be, right? it could be, but the government just wants to know, which for me it's alarming because the federal government already has so much of our information. So the fact that people are still able to do so much scheming and stuff like that to where they had to enact this act is kind of alarming, right? Because it's the federal government. They have all of our information.
Why are y'all asking for an additional report whenever we already got to file an annual report?
So we got some top-level schemers, I guess.
That's kind of crazy now that you're making me think about it because, like, we file an annual report, and basically all the information you're putting on your annual report is the same stuff that you're going to be reporting to FinCEN, right? Like,
McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles in the overworld. Now for a limited time, you can get one of 6 McDonald's collectibles when you order a Minecraft movie meal. Ooh. With your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce. Available now in a biome near you. Oh, and at your local McDonald's. At participating McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theaters.
I don't want to.
But I think one is reported to Secretary of State versus this is
but
directly.
Why they can't talk internally?
So I think some people, you got to think about it. Some people that are doing illegal stuff, they might create an entity, run up a bag, do some scheming, and then never do any reporting to the Secretary of State. They might not be filing an annual report. They might not be filing taxes at all, right? So that's the gap that I feel like the IRS is trying to close, where they're making us do this Corporate Transparency Act. But from my assessment of things, it's not that scary. All we're doing as owners of the company is disclosing to the federal government, hey, this is who I am, my address, this, you know what I mean? This is my ownership in the company. And so as long as you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to worry about. And then they're also giving you a nice amount of time. So for us who've already been incorporated prior to the new year, we have a whole year to disclose the information. And then the new companies, you have 90 days. So if you're doing it on your own, then that's just something else you add to the checklist. Okay, when I get done doing all of this, let me make sure I go over here to the federal government and tell them what they need to know. Or if you're working with someone like me, an attorney, or even your CPA, then you know your CPA is already going to be doing that for you. Or you can have the conversation with them like, hey, how much extra to do this or whatever. But to me, it's not that much to stress about. You don't go to jail or you don't get the fines and things like that unless you're not complying. And I don't see a reason why you wouldn't comply.
Yeah, because they're not asking for no crazy information or nothing like that. It's not like they're going to charge you $10,000 today. Basically, for you to go to jail, you wouldn't have to file until like January of 2026.
Well, I think you could go to jail for any non-compliance, really, but I think the federal government, they do give you a lot of leeway. It's kind of like taxes. Yeah. If you do something illegal with your taxes, they're not going to come get you the same day or the next day. The federal government, they wait.
That interest run up on your ass.
They wait.
Give you 4-5 years, and then they pull up on you.
Yeah, they'll wait on you.
I knew what you was doing.
Exactly. But the other thing that I found interesting with this whole hysteria is that there's a lot of exemptions for the Corporate Transparency Act. So
really? Major corporations, if you like at a certain threshold with employees, or if you got a certain, I think it's revenue threshold, you got to.
So it was a 2-pronged test for that exemption. So it's like 23 exemptions. So the one you're talking about is for like bigger businesses, and they classify it as businesses who have more than 20 full-time employees, and then their taxes, it was a gross revenue of like 5.5 million or more, something in that area, but definitely 5 million or more. And then so that would be one exemption.
I think another one was the if it's regulated by another body, is like SEC regulated and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's a lot of different exemptions. Nonprofits, for example,
because they already reporting to somebody.
Yeah, it's a lot. Banks. Different types of insurance
banks
companies.
are going to be reporting to FINRA. If they're going to the SEC, so that makes sense. I understand what you're saying. But like the word you used to describe it was the best word I think so far.
Hysteria.
Because like people like got so concerned, especially whenever you see $10,000, people like, man, I don't have 10.
Is it 2 years up in jail?
Yeah, 10,000 to 2 years in jail. And you know, whenever you marketing things, you gonna always put the highlight. You know what I'm saying? People are always gonna. I'm guilty of it. Shit, I put it in your face. I want you to know the big number so you're paying attention. But a lot of times you need to read those details so you're not hysterical and over here thinking, "Oh my gosh, the world's gonna end." No, the sky not falling, Chicken Little. Like just read a little bit.
Absolutely, and that's another role that I play with my clients. So oftentimes in the business world, I get business owners coming to me who are hysterical about whatever the case is, whether it's a contract issue, somebody owes them some money, or somebody using their trademark, whatever it is, they're usually hysterical. So as a business attorney, I have to stay cool, calm, and collected and just kind of like calm down. It's okay. Like, yeah, it might be a little trouble there, but these are our options, A, B, C, or D. How do you want to go about it? You know what I mean? So that's kind of the approach that I took with the act on my platform, just letting people know, like, yeah, it's a new requirement for us as business owners, but it's as long as you give them their information, it's nothing to worry about.
I like it.
Right?
I like it. Yeah.
It's simple.
Don't make it complicated. Just report to the people. And again, the people that we got to report to is FinCEN.
Right.
The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I think the little thing is FINCEN.
You got a good memory.
I have one more question. Do we have to file this report annually, or is this a one-time thing?
it's a one-time thing, but if like the ownership changed, then you'll need to add more information.
Okay.
Because the biggest thing is they want to know who's behind the company. So remember, the whole purpose of the LLC, corporation, or whatever is kind of to shield you as a human being, right? As the owner, right? And so a lot of the different states allow us to do that in a very good way.
Like Delaware and those types of states.
Wyoming, right? Well, you have anonymous members. So like in Texas, you have to list either the members or the managers, right? So to a degree, you're exposing some of the owners, right? But those other states, you can get away with not putting anything. So let's say you guys get another owner and you give him 50% ownership or something. Of course, then he would need to disclose that to the federal government.
Gotcha. Okay. Then kind of like an addendum to it that you just have to change and update. Okay.
So like you change the Secretary of State, just make sure you're updating that as well.
Right. I like how you said it, though. It's just another step on your checklist that you need to add whenever you're forming your business or doing any of your legal requirements.
So it doesn't sound that scary right now that we talk about it.
Shit, that's it. Sound pretty simple. Sound like I just got to go to a website and put my information in.
Yeah.
But I guess whenever you were mentioning that losing that protection in a sense for those people with those Delaware LLCs and things like that, with the information that we're reporting to FinCEN, is this going to be like public database type stuff? Like, can anybody look at this, or is this confidential?
Now, the federal government can always change it, but as it stands right now, from my research, it is not public record.
Okay.
Right? So it's just for the federal government.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You can still be anonymous.
Basically, because like, I look on sites like Open Corporates or something like that where you can go in and find who owns an LLC, but those Delaware LLCs you can't.
We be checking.
So if you could go and we be looking, we be checking. Don't be trying to scam.
We know your real name.
Yeah. You funny.
I'm just saying.
That's an inside joke. But no, that's important, and it's good to know that FinCEN's information won't just be publicly plastered. So you still have that level of protection from an LLC, because some people, they started jumping into like, oh, you need to go get a trust immediately. And it's like, that's not necessarily
Y'all going
true.
0 to 100 real quick.
Well, as an attorney, I always recommend the trust, just because it gives you the extra layer of protection. And I'll explain the protection thing in a minute. And then also the anonymity, right? So I always recommend the trust as well. Especially for those companies who are grossing larger revenues, because then you have more to lose. So when we think about the simple entities like the LLC and corporation, we get those to protect ourselves, right, and protect our own assets. Well, the trust, it's going to make it harder for an attorney like me to figure out who you are and sue you. And it's kind of a deterrent, right? So, for example, earlier last year, I was going after this big real estate company in Dallas. They had did some shady things to one of my clients, and I typically don't get into the representation of tenants per se, but sometimes other attorneys will refer me certain things, and it might be a case where I really want to help someone that's having a hard time. And man, I'm an attorney, and it took me a long time to try to figure out who these people were.
Like who the beneficial owners of the trust are?
You need to know who they are to list them in the lawsuit. But sometimes they're layered. So it might be a corporation that owns, A, B, C, and D, and then a trust owns all of it, and then the information for the trust is not necessarily public, right? So you don't have to make it public knowledge who owns the trust.
Like, so let me just making sure I'm getting this right. So like, where I should say I could go on Open Corporates, look up LLC, and I can find everybody that owns it. You're saying for a trust, that's not the same situation.
Nope.
Like, if a trust is owned by a corporation, how would I find out that the trust is owned by a corporation? That's like that's when y'all get in y'all attorney bag and do y'all researching.
So, for example, I might go on to Dallas County Property Search, and then I'll start being able to see, like, okay, I can kind of do like a paper trail. Okay, so if this is the property who did the wrongdoing, this is listed on the Dallas County Property Search, this is the people who own it, and then I kind of can go from there, right?
Correct me if I'm wrong. A trust is its own entity, and it actually has is it beneficiaries that the trust have, correct? So that's why you don't have to disclose who's
It's a whole nother realm, a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, it's not in the same, like LLCs, corps, all this trust over here, right? Not like together in the same umbrella.
Exactly.
Got you. So kind of getting into some of the stuff, like this is good stuff that we're talking about right here. I want to talk about intellectual property. I think intellectual property is always a big conversation. Whenever we ran into each other at Flex's event, shout out to Flex, good guy here in Dallas. We got to get Flex on one day.
We do need to get Flex.
We were talking about intellectual property, and I think that's always a relevant conversation in our community because a lot of times we don't talk about it enough, but this is our greatest asset a lot of times, the properties and the things that we create. So just to kind of kick it off, I want to clear up some of the confusion with the differences between copyrights and trademarks and patents. Like, so can we get into like what's the difference between copyrights, trademarks, and patents? Because like they each offer you legal protection, right? But they do it in different ways.
Yeah. So I have a famous example that I always use. But the term intellectual property itself, just view that as like an umbrella word, right? So under that umbrella, we have copyrights, trademarks, and patents, okay? So when you hear people say, oh, my intellectual property, it could be any of those three. Just in general, the intellectual property that you develop from your mind. So you have the copyrights, which is like your creative works, right? It is the book writing. It is what we're doing right now, the podcasting. It's anything that's like a creative work, right? It's the music. Yeah, it's the singing of the music. It's the writing of the music, the lyrics. It's all of those creative works.
If you created it, you have a copyright.
Right. Like, so it's artistic works. That's what you want to, deal with for your copyright. It even gets down to artwork. So maybe your logo, things like that. Anything that's in any way artistic is going to fall in the realm of copyright protection. Now, the example that I like to use is the flying car. It's ironic. Last year I saw that they actually came out with the flying car. I've been using this example for like 6-7 years, right? Because I like aviation. So in my free time, I go and fly. But right now, I don't own a...
You going to be a pilot type shit?
Not that I'm going to be a pilot, but, well, maybe.
That's hard. We'll pin that. We'll talk about that later. That's hard, though.
Look, I'll accept your manifestation for me. I might get my pilot's license, but right now, it's just something I do for fun. So in Addison, they have private airports. You can go and fly the little Cessna planes. So in my free time, when I want some extra fun and adrenaline, I go and do that. So
you go fly them shits?
I go fly. Yeah.
Ooh,
I got
crazy.
videos on my social media. I go fly. Yeah.
Look up your lawyer in the sky, baby.
So my example that I always use to break it down is, let's say there's a new invention. You got a vehicle, and then that vehicle starts to fly. Let's say to market the vehicle, they create some type of infomercial or commercial, and they got singing, they got all this artistic stuff. We would copyright the commercial, right? Now, the next category is the trademark. The trademark is going to protect your brand. So your brand is anything that consumers use to identify your business. So it's going to be your logo, your business names, even your colors, right? Even your slogans. So if you have particular slogans you use before you start your podcast that everybody identifies with your company, then that's going to be trademarked, right?
Can you trademark a jingle?
Yeah. Okay. Well, no. You would
be copyright.
You would copyright a jingle, but let's say it's a particular part of the jingle that you use every time you start your podcast or every time you go on live, and it somehow become identified with your business. Then yeah, we would trademark it.
Like how Sony has, like when you cut on their products, that little whoom noise, that type of joint.
Or like you got ba da ba ba ba, right? I'm loving it. So with the flying car, let's say we named it Shantell's Flying Car, right? It's simple, but if that's the name of the car, then we would trademark that because that's how people are going to identify the flying car, okay? And then the most important part with this particular invention, a flying car, that's crazy, right? So we want to make sure that we own the engineering that it took to create the flying car, and that's where the patent comes in. So any inventions you create, right? You want to get a patent over it. So let's say we come up with a robotic vacuum, which they already have. But let's say it's a big human-like vacuum. It'll come vacuum your house. That's a new invention. So we want to get a patent on that. So that's kind of how you break it down.
You saying flying car made me think about the Jetsons, like the little robot from the Jetsons. She
But
cleaning
they
the house.
created it though. I saw it last year for the first time on Instagram. They were like marketing the flying car.
That's dope.
And I was like, man.
It's supposed to be flying taxis coming to Dallas. With them.
Bro, I'm not ready for that. I'm not going to
I mean,
somebody
ready or
drop out
not,
the
it
sky,
don't matter.
I'll be like, whoa, that's crazy.
It's coming.
It's coming. Ready?
That's
If
crazy.
you ready on that,
That's
you
insane.
probably not the target audience right now.
I'm not.
I know
That
you're
sounds
not.
crazy.
I definitely would buy one.
I know you
I feel
would.
like I helped them manifest
She
it.
gonna be in the taxi like, yo, I'm pulling up.
Yeah.
I'm landing on the rooftop right now, girl.
Going to the moon, I'll be back.
That's crazy.
I do want to ask, so like, who are the agencies you're reporting to on those particular things? Like with copyright, do you actually report copyrights, or once it's created, it's protected?
So that's a great question. So the agencies, when it comes to trademarks and patents, it's the USPTO, right? So we're very familiar with them. But then as far as copyrights, they have their own unique system. So it's the U.S. Copyright Office. That's the website you would go to.
Gotcha.
And as far as protection, so it's tricky. When it comes to copyrights, the copyright is technically created the moment you put it in what we call tangible medium of expression, right?
Okay.
So all that means is you kind of document it in some way. So the moment we do this recording, this podcast, it's effectively a copyright over it.
Is it because we're recording it?
So the recording of it is a tangible medium of expression.
Okay.
But if we were just in the bathroom talking, that it wouldn't be a tangible medium of expression because there's no way to go back and document it. If we wrote out some music lyrics, us writing out the lyrics would be a tangible medium of expression. Okay.
Got you.
But for example, let's say a comedian just getting up there freestyling and in that moment creating jokes, that's not a tangible medium of expression. Now, if it's a videographer in the back recording the stand-up, then it would be a tangible medium of expression. So in those moments, when you have that tangible medium of expression, the copyright is effectively created. But the only problem is you cannot sue someone for infringing on your copyright unless you have an actual federal registration for the copyright.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
That's important because my understanding has always been copyrights are inherent. You don't have to file them. But if you don't file it, you're saying you can't actually sue nobody.
Right.
Can't enforce it.
Right. So the courts are actually going to make you file the copyright registration first. Then you can sue. And then another downside is if you did not have a registered copyright at the moment the infringement happened, you don't get some of the statutory protections. So, for example, the statute says if you infringe on someone's copyright, you have to pay their attorney fees, and then there's other like statutory fines. But if you didn't have a valid registered copyright in the federal database at that time, then you don't get those statutory protections.
And it's no backdoor. Like if I registered it today and sued you for an offense 2 years ago, it would null and
No,
void.
you have to at the time of the infringement, it has to have been registered.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. The Department of Defense is working with Google to help secure America's digital defense systems, from establishing cloud-based zero-trust solutions to deploying the latest AI technology. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American innovation.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
Right. So the courts are going to honor, hey, on this date, you put it in a tangible medium of expression so we can identify that you did create it. You are the creator, but you didn't have it registered. So they're going to force you to go and register it first, and then you'll be able to sue, and then you're going to lose out on some of those statutory damages, and you will only be allowed to get like your actual damages. So like, what did you actually suffer as a result of this person infringing on your copyright?
That makes
And then you're going to come out of pocket paying for your own attorney to represent you and stuff like that. So my suggestion is always, obviously, put it in a tangible medium of expression, but also go ahead and copyright it.
does it cost to copyright it? Do I have to pay like $5, $10, $20, $30 every time I copyright something, like register?
It does cost. It's a filing fee. Last year it was about $60 to file. But I mean, $60 and you legally own something. So like we were talking about my daughter's book earlier, that's copywritten.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have just been like, it's just a book, but it's copywritten. She owns that book. That's
got
hers.
illustrations in that mug too. Nice illustrations. I know y'all had that commission. You ain't got to say it nicely. I already know that was nice. I seen it.
Yeah. So that's how you want to handle copyrights. And then that's a really big issue right now. I was seeing the viral videos with Shannon Sharp and
Cat Williams. Yeah.
With people stealing jokes and stuff like that. Well, every other creative industry, the musicians, actors, actresses, they have gotten to the point where they strongly protect their work, right? But the comedians have not really leveled up yet. So from my legal perspective, what I would suggest to comedians is start copywriting your jokes, okay? Because
once you put it on video, actually going to the U.S.
Not just video. You can write down. You can physically write it down.
Yeah.
Right?
So a lot of comedians handwrite their jokes first, and then they go, like they practice, right? Now some of them are doing just freestyle. Obviously, that's a risk when you just freestyle. But if you're writing out your jokes, it's no reason not to just say, hey, Candice, can you copyright this for me? Or even go on there yourself, if you feel comfortable doing that. But every time you're writing out your jokes, I would copyright my jokes. So that way, if I saw another person using my jokes, well, now I'm going to teach you a lesson because this is a registered copyright. So now you owe me some money. So whatever money that you made off of that show using my jokes, now I have some type of claim to that money.
And you got to pay my attorney fees.
Right. You see how it works?
I ain't gonna lie, because whenever we was planning for this, my question was like, damn, would you go broke just like filing all of these lawsuits for people using your copyright? But if you registered and you got to pay attorney fee, they got to pay attorney fees. That's a win-win all day.
Yeah.
And in the case of Cat Williams, like you were mentioning, he said it a few times, like this was a televised joke, so that would be a tangible medium of expression. So where, like, even if he didn't file it, right, any money that Cedric made off of telling that joke, like you were just saying, he could, like, say if he did it live at a show, would he have claim to the revenues from that show?
So it gets really tricky with breaking down the actual infringement, right? So on the surface, yes, he could file a suit once he went and registered it, right? So let's say he did the stand-up, you said he video recorded it or something?
I think he said 2018 or something like that is when he recorded it.
Okay, so if it's video recorded, that's effectively a tangible medium of expression. But did he go and actually get a copyright for it? So then that would be a hurdle for him. So now you're going to have to go and get a copyright for it. And then there's a second layer. The videographer actually owns that material. So Cat owns the jokes he said, but whoever is recording it, that's the person that owns that material, right? So it would be a few hurdles for him, but yes, if he wanted to, he could dot his I's and cross his T's, get the copyright registration, and then still take action. But would it be really worth his time? Maybe not, just because it's you got to go back a little bit too much. And so another thing too with filing those copyright infringement suits or any intellectual property infringement, you want to make sure that you're going after some defendants that have money, because we don't want to, like, yeah, I can get you a W, I can get you a win, of course, but then you're gonna be looking at me sad if it's like they can't pay the judgment,
because somebody gonna pay me for my time.
Yeah, like
right.
You went through all this trouble just to say that they are liable, but then they ain't got nothing to pay you with.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just things to keep in mind, but that's a great question.
So what about like trademarks then? How do you enforce those? Like, is it the same process?
So you still would file a suit, right? In federal court. Everything is federal when it comes to intellectual property. You still would file a suit, but trademark, it's a little fun because let's say somebody's, I love trademarks. It's fun in the sense that, let's say someone is infringing on your trademark because they went and filed their own trademark registration, right? You can do a number of different things. While it's in the process of being reviewed by the USPTO, you can file what's called an opposition. And if you file an opposition and win, you can get their trademark application knocked down, so it won't get approved, okay? And then let's say you're snoozing, you're not really checking the USPTO regularly, so you don't know who's filing something every day. But let's say you find out someone has pretty much copied your brand and somehow it got past the USPTO and got registered as an actual trademark. Mm-hmm. Instead of filing the opposition, because at this point it's registered, you would do a cancellation proceeding to cancel the entire registration. So it flows like a lawsuit, but it's under the body of the USPTO, mm-hmm. right? Gotcha. It's really the USPTO. They have another layer like the Trial and Appeals Board or whatever, but that's how you would handle the trademarks. And so it gets pretty interesting because you have all these different tools with the trademarks to kind of protect your brand, if you will. Mm-hmm. But the first layer of business that I always like to tell people is you want to send out the cease and desist. It's going to be much cheaper for your attorney to send a piece of paper to someone to say,
like
hey.
Like a little warning shot. Like,
yeah.
Hey,
like, stop using my brand. And if you don't, then I'm going to sue you. So that's always fun because most people are afraid when they get a letter from an attorney.
Yeah, it's like, oh, dang, what's this? You know, it's like a letter, attorneys in the IRS. That's 2 letters you don't want to get.
Yeah. So that's how you would enforce the trademark. And then the patents would be the same way. So I, in particular, don't handle patents. That's a different specialty, mm-hmm. and it requires different certifications and stuff like that for attorneys. But I know enough about patents to say that, yeah, you would handle it in a similar way. Gotcha, protecting it.
Gotcha. You mentioned something in there, Candice, whenever you were talking about the videographer. Uh-huh. And it brought something that I want to talk up about. When it comes to content like that, right, the person behind the camera, they typically own the content unless there's some type of work for hire. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to get into the whole name, image, and likeness side of things, right? Because one deal that had came up recently was the thing with Cameron. I'm not sure if you had saw that.
When they took the picture of him in that pretty pink.
Yeah, Cam got the picture of him in the pink hoodie and the pink mink coat. And he's been selling it on merch of his for years. And last year he lost a lawsuit behind that, actually, because the person that took the photo never signed off on it. And I think they said they attempted to send him letters and stuff like that, but he never did respond. And I seen another situation where it was Nas as well. A photographer took a picture of Nas, and he took a picture of Nas, Tupac, and some people, and Nas posted it on his Instagram. And the photographer sued him for that as well. So my question on that is, like, if it's your name, image, and likeness and some of these things, do you have a legal right to these things in any capacity, even if you didn't take the picture?
So it depends, but typically no. So we're like the situations that you recommend, that you just mentioned, they didn't win the case because it wasn't necessarily commercial appropriation of their name, image, and likeness, right? So if you're walking out in public, anybody has the ability to just snap a picture of you. Now, if they start capitalizing off of that picture and, you know, they're soliciting it as if, like, this is Cameron, I took this picture, and just making a ton of money off of it, then you might have a claim to it. But just a person taking a picture by in and of itself, it's really not going to meet the legal requirements for commercial appropriation. What would be more so a commercial appropriation is if, like, someone started doing a podcast and they kept mentioning, yeah, Attorney Candice, she loves our podcast. She said our podcast was better than someone else's. She supports our, and they start using my name. Or say Beyonce. Yeah. Beyonce would be better. Oh, Beyonce approved of our stuff, or Beyonce likes our perfume, or whatever. And then they're making money off of that person's name. Then that's different. Then you have a stronger claim. But just going out in public and somebody taking a picture of you, unfortunately, you really don't have that many rights.
So even like that Cameron situation, it kind of blew my mind. It was like, damn, it's a picture of him, so he can't sell a picture of him, even because he didn't take the picture. And I guess because he didn't have anything in place with the photographer at the time.
Yeah.
Like I think I seen that. I was reading into the case. I believe the photographer had sent some notices like several times, like, hey, yo, you got to stop selling this shit. And it was a situation where it wasn't responded to. Is that something that, like, whenever they say that you're delivering these things, is this something you got to get served, like papers you got to get served, or is it just by mail notice, is that fine?
So it depends. Like if you're serving a lawsuit or something like that, then yes, you have to physically get it served to the person. Gotcha. But just like a regular cease and desist or just a notice of intent to sue, you can just send that to the person's address or even via email. These days, you can just email it to a person.
Yeah, so I ain't thinking about I was thinking like maybe they have to physically, like, somebody told him and he was like, nah, fuck it. I'm just going to keep selling my stuff. It could have just been a situation where this was sent via email or mail and it never was received.
He probably got the
before
notice.
The lawsuit got there.
Yeah, he probably got the notice. I mean, I'm assuming the photographer's attorney did their due diligence to figure out who this individual is. I'm sure as a rapper, I'm sure he has his own attorney and legal representation. So I'm sure there was some communications before the lawsuit. And then another thing is, once a lawsuit is served, you have an opportunity to settle. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to necessarily go through trial and take the chance of winning or losing. You can settle with the person. So I think in this case, the artist, Cameron, he probably was just very frustrated about the situation and the laws. And sometimes the laws are not in our favor, but they are what they are. And then you have to think about it. A lot of the people creating the laws, the justices on the Supreme Court, they're a bit up in age. They're older. So in their generation, when the copyright laws and stuff like that were really, being litigated about, it wasn't so much the new age technology that we had.
Digital stuff like we had.
Yeah, so think about it. Photographers had a lot of protections. Photographers were very popular back then. I mean, they're popular now, but I'm just saying back then they
had to have the camera. Like everybody has a
camera film. Now. Yeah.
So that holds a lot of weight, is what I'm saying, right? And then I would compare a photographer to like an artist. So if an artist sat down at his desk and they drew their own picture. Just because it's a picture of Tupac doesn't mean that you own it. Like, I sat down and I drew it, right? Now, if they drew a picture of another picture of Tupac, then that would be different. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But if somebody already drew this and you just recreated it.
But if they just in their mind, okay, I remember what Tupac looks like, I'm going to draw him and sketch him or paint him or whatever, they own that. That's their artistic work. So it's unfortunate sometimes, but that's just how it is. So if it was my client, what I would have done in a situation will say, because you like this picture so much, let's sit down and negotiate with the artist, right, the photographer, and purchase the picture because it's more valuable to you. You want to use it on your whatever he was using it on. And then that's what we would have did.
On everything. He was putting that shit on there. He had shirts. He had jackets. The nigga had socks. Yeah. Then you're selling wristbands. Like, come on, bro. You doing too much.
Yeah. So he should have, the smart thing that I would have said to my client, and that's where being a business attorney comes into play. It's not always pretty when I sit down with my clients and kind of consult with them, but I have to give them the real deal. So I would have said, we can negotiate a settlement, right? And then we would have started talking numbers. What's the most you're willing to pay for this, right? What are you willing to give up? Maybe he's just a fan. Maybe he just want to go to dinner with you and he'll give you a picture. Maybe whatever. So we'll start talking about what are you willing to give up in exchange for this photo, right? Then I can send an offer letter. Well, let me back up a little bit. So that'd be option A. Option B would be we can file a lawsuit, try to get some type of declaratory judgment as to who owns this or whatever, but you're going to have to pay me, and the money you're paying me, we could have been using that to settle and purchase the photo. Or we could just do nothing, and you keep doing whatever you're doing, and you run the risk of being sued, right? So then I kind of let my client say, okay, Candice, I'm going to do option A, right? And then if we went with option A and tried to settle, then I'd send an offer letter, and we would go back and forth a little bit with the other attorney and try to get a deal resolved. That's how it works, yeah.
Damn, Cam. Should have been a little bit of diplomatic, man.
Oh, that was you're funny, bro. But that's good, Candice. I appreciate it. That's a very good breakdown on that, and I got a much better understanding of it now. 'Cause I was just like thinking, like, damn, man, it didn't make no sense to me. Like, especially the Nas one, the Nas case. I did look into like the court docs. I believe that one got dismissed.
Okay.
With nothing. I think it was voluntarily dismissed, is what I read.
McDonald's meets the Minecraft universe with one of 6 collectibles and your choice of a Big Mac or 10-piece McNuggets with spicy Nether Flame sauce. Now available with a Minecraft movie meal.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time, a Minecraft movie only in theaters. Lowe's is the destination for Ego outdoor power equipment this spring. See what's new and exclusive, like the 17-inch string trimmer with Line IQ technology that auto-feeds to save you time, and the 22-inch Select Cut self-propelled mowers with a multi-blade system for precise cutting. Shop Ego Days, happening now during Spring Fest at Lowe's. We help, you save. Selection varies by location while supplies last.
By the photographer, because I didn't see how they could make a claim to that one. You know, it's like, bro, he didn't even make no money off of this. He just posted this on Instagram. Like, if you can get sued behind posting a picture on Instagram, that's kind of crazy.
Sound like some hating shit. Like that.
And then you got exceptions to copyright infringement also. So you have something like fair use, right? So, for example, not legal, but just commentary in general on someone's work, like something educational, things like that are exceptions to copyright infringement. So I'm pretty sure I didn't read the case.
Can you give me an example? Like what you mean, like something educational? How is that?
Yeah.
Like a reaction video on YouTube?
Exactly. So, for example, with me as an attorney, I kind of leveraged viral videos, and I talked about the educational legal piece of it, right? So I remember I started going viral on TikTok because I did a reaction commentary on an Uber driver who exposed a cheating husband. And I was being funny, right? But I was just like, well, if it was my client, I'm suing you for this, and this, right? And then she tried to challenge it on a copyright basis, but it's not copyright infringement. It's fair use, right? Because I'm giving legal commentary. It's not like I'm posting this video on my website and I'm using this as a basis to get money or something like that. No, I'm giving legal commentary and feedback. I'm educating people. So that's an exemption. So
I didn't under fair use, right? So I didn't read the lawsuit for Nas, but I'm pretty sure his lawyer probably made that argument. Just posting one picture, probably, that would fall under like just fair use, like, and that's what protects most of us on social media.
Exactly.
I mean, most people. Let's just be honest here, guys. Whenever you're looking for something, you go to Google, you find it, you crop it, you do what you do, and then you make your content a lot of times. Yeah. So, like, that's what protects us in that sense.
Yeah, but you got to be careful with, like, the going to Google and cropping and taking pictures, because that would be copyright infringement depending on how you use it. So, if you're giving, like, feedback on something that somebody else created, if you're doing, like, what we call a parody, so if you're making fun of somebody's content or something, you know how you see the funny content creators where they're, like,
entrepreneurs be like on a podcast.
Take a song and make it funny.
Exactly. So then that would be fair use. But let's say you go on Google and you say, man, I want to make me a new flyer for my business and I need some purple flowers. And you go on Google and you search purple flowers. And then you find all these pictures and you find the one you like. But let's say John, the photographer, took this picture and he knows that's his picture and he sees it on your flyer. Technically, that's copyright infringement because
I can hit you with that.
Yeah, that's not an educational basis. You put it on your flyer. You're trying to solicit business. You know what I mean? So it can get very tricky. So I be careful.
I appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Google.
Got to hear first. You heard me?
Content creators. I do, since we're like on the content, I know you just said, a lot of the people who created some of this litigation is older. How do you see this changing for the digital environment? Do you see the laws being updated? Any push like that?
Man, it's crazy. So last year we had a crazy case. It was a breach of contract case, and the defendant was arguing. So basically, it was two farmers, right? They had done business in the past, and they didn't use a formal written contract. They would just
handshake type agreement.
Right, but they would text each other and say, yo, I got the however many barrels of corn at 16, whatever. And then the other person would either heart the message or wink or whatever. And that's what they did in the past, right? And so this one particular instance, the defendant sent like a thumbs up emoji. But then he didn't honor the contract. Mm-hmm. So the farmer sued for breach of contract. And so the defendant was arguing, I just sent the thumbs up emoji. That wasn't me accepting the agreement, right?
But this was the standard y'all set already, right?
That's so you said, look, you could be a lawyer. So
okay. I'm following your train of thought.
So that would be prior course of performance. So the court looked at that, right? But the point I'm trying to get at is how in this new age, we're using emojis,
yeah.
right? So the court said that emoji was good enough to constitute acceptance of the offer that the farmer made. So therefore, it was a binding contract. So as we progress in this tech world or whatever, I foresee more stuff like that happening.
That's cool. So that sets precedences, and you start using that moving forward.
Right. So just in general, when I read that case, for me, advising my clients, it's like, be careful what you put in the text messages. Obviously, we know be careful what you say in person because verbal agreements are valid. But, you got to be careful. Don't heart somebody's message if it's like a proposition or something like that. Just have to be very clear so that there is a meeting of the minds, if you will, as to what the agreement is, if you accepted it, if you did not, things like that.
That's good. Yeah. What you got, Dave?
I wanted to ask a bit more about some of the trademark stuff, actually. So, because we are going to get into contracts, too, because that's a very important topic. But with trademarks, I wanted to get into a few things, right? Okay. So right now, the USPTO is backed up, right? I think when we spoke, you said it's like 18 months, if not more.
It's a long time.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
It took us a long time. We filed a few years ago. And I saw like a stat. I think it said like the amount of trademarks filed since 2020, like it tripled, like from the previous period. So with filing a trademark, it's going to take some time. That's something that like we need people to understand. But when you're filing a trademark, one thing I wanted to clear up is, does this cover you? Because I know you said it's for brands, right? It doesn't cover your brand in every aspect whenever you trademark. It only covers you in a certain place. Right. Can you kind of talk about that, like explain how that works?
Absolutely. So, yes, it is extremely backed up. I have to keep my clients from jumping off the ledge all the time because they're like, where is the Candice? I'm like, if I could just walk into the USPTO's office and like threaten them to get it, done quicker, I would, but I can't do that. So anyways, it does take a long time. So I'm glad you guys already have the understanding. I'm sure your attorneys thank you. And then B, there's different categories of.
I ain't had that understanding at first. I ain't gonna lie. I was mad. I was like, but why the hell is taking so long?
I had understood. Yeah. I was like, bro.
You just gotta be patient.
I kept asking. I was like, bro, where the trademark at?
I got to the point where I forgot we even filed that shit. That shit just came out. I said, oh shit, it's him.
That's how it works. It just pop up in the email. Okay, it's registered. It's like, yay. But as far as the different classes that you were referring to, there are about 45 different classes for the trademark. Okay. And what that means is like I looked you guys' trademark up, and you guys have a trademark in the class of education and entertainment, which is class 41. So you are protected.
I like her. She do research.
I like that shit too.
Make sure we on our shit, goddamn.
Right, I'm gonna get you right. So you guys are protected in class 41. So education and entertainment, that means other podcasters, that means other people on social media, anything in education and entertainment, even if they're on TV, it doesn't matter. You guys own your trademark in class 41. But let's say
cease and desist that ass.
Right. But let's say someone used your trademark for cosmetics. You don't own the trademark.
We don't own cosmetics.
So you can't say they're infringing on you. Right?
You gotta go change that.
Right.
I'm saying, you gotta niggas ammunition.
But then like that's the thing though, right? Because what you're saying, that's not what our business is known for though. Like, so if they Black Wealth Renaissance in that, would they be able to use our logo and all that shit like that?
So with the logo, I always recommend copyrighting the logo because remember, it's a form of art. So copyrights will protect your artwork. So if you have a logo, copyright it. That way, regardless of what trademark category they're trying to apply for, you can say, even though I'm not using cosmetics for Black Wealth Renaissance, I have the logo copyrighted. So if they wanted to just use the plain words, Black Wealth Renaissance, you can't do anything about that. But if they actually copied your logo for the cosmetic category, you own the copyright. So now you could win that way, right?
I'm glad you said words. Because I know big corporations are copyrighting words. How the fuck does that work? So Facebook own the word face.
That was insane when I heard it. Like, how you own the word face? You ain't made faces up.
They probably trademarked it.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, not copyrighting, they're trademarked.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So, again, it goes back to your brand. So if you can show the USPTO consumers identify this word with my brand and you have the receipts to back it up, then you can get it registered. And so when your attorney did your trademark for you guys, you had to show the USPTO specimen. I like to call it receipts, right, or proof of use. So you can't just file a trademark and get it registered just because you want to. You have to show them, hey, I'm using this in commerce. So Facebook probably was able to show, hey, we have a subsidiary probably called Face, or people often refer to Facebook in slang terms as Face. But either way it goes, we're using this term in commerce, meaning they're making money or they're holding some type of product or service out for payment, right? So that's how it works. So they were able to show the USPTO, hey, I meet the requirements, and that's how they got it registered.
That is wild, because I think LeBron tried to register Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
But he didn't get that one, right?
I think it was already
somebody
registered.
already registered, and they basically, I think he got in a little bit of trouble, cease and desist or something, but he couldn't use it. So he made like a funny commercial, like, I can't say this anymore.
Yeah,
you know.
I do remember that.
Yeah, it was kind of cute. So it's like nuck if you buck when it comes to trademarks. It's downright.
Yeah, that's crazy. And like the thing that brought that whole idea up for me was I seen a video kind of talking about that idea where a lot of major corporations are in a rush. They're like in a competition in a sense to trademark a lot of these basic words that you wouldn't think, but that lowers competition overall. Like whenever you're saying it's cutthroat in this world, like if you try to start a business that's just Face, now you getting the cease and desist from Facebook. Hey, you can't use that.
But remember the rule: you own it in that particular category, unless you can establish it's some other loopholes. Like if you have a famous, a known famous brand or something like that, then you can establish ownership in other categories that you don't actually have a trademark. But the general rule is you only own it in that category.
Gotcha.
Right. So yeah, they own Face, but let's say I'm assuming it's Facebook, so they probably own the trademark to Face in education and entertainment, right? Somebody else, let's use cosmetics again. Somebody else might do Face for cosmetics. Well, Facebook might not mess with them because that's not their industry. That's not their category, right? So it boils down to that. And then it was something else you were talking about, the influx of filers.
Yeah, filings.
So during COVID, so I noticed the same thing. So pre-COVID, it was like 6 months, maybe 9 months, the waiting time. But I feel like what happened is during COVID, you had attorneys like me really pushing the information on social media, trademark. So then you got an influx of more people becoming aware and taking action, because now people sitting at home, they have the time.
Thanks.
They got the time, they got the information, people getting their little money and stuff.
And they got the resources.
Right. They got the money,
Some
and
people
so
had the PPP.
yeah, so people just became more aware during that pandemic period, and so now everybody's like, I'm trademarking, right? I don't feel like it's enough people still, because I still get people coming to me crying about issues with somebody else, owning it, and they didn't get to file it in time and stuff. But that's the deal. Yeah. People just had the time.
If you go, and it's one of those things we're talking about, the whole umbrella intellectual property. It's definitely a worthwhile investment in your business.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, you would hate for it to, like, you started your business, you start making some money, because that was our mentality. Like, okay, we started the business, we making money. If we don't do this, I think O'Neal was the one that actually told us. O'Neal Parker, shout out to O'Neal. He's like, man, y'all better trademark y'all shit for somebody else go do that. And then y'all gonna be sitting it. Yeah, he was one of actually the first guest we ever had on the show.
You need those kind of friends.
He said y'all better trademark this shit before somebody go and try to use it or do something with it. And it's like, when you're an attorney, you charge people to do this. It was like $1,500 to $2,000 usually on average.
It could be more.
Something like that. Yeah, depending on how many you're getting, right? Because I think, are we only in education and entertainment? I could have swore it was in another one too.
I didn't see any other categories, and that was a problem for me. I was like, y'all, it's some other categories you guys need.
Man, we're gonna talk about
that.
We ain't gonna tell y'all what we need, but we're gonna figure it out.
Okay, yeah, that's good shit.
It's one more question I have on trademarks. Is there like an expiration period, or what is the maintenance of a trademark that you should know about? Yeah,
so it's not really like an expiration, but there are like deadlines. So you got 5 years, 10 years. So the USPTO is not going to give you like an indefinite trademark. They're going to check in with you over time to see that you're still using it in the way that you got it, that you got it registered for, right? So you still gonna have those little deadlines. And so once you get it, your stuff trademarked, your attorney, at least I do, they'll send you like a little packet with your trademark, basically letting you know, hey, at this marker, 5-year marker, we have to show proof again. Hey, we're still using it. At the 10-year marker, we still have to show proof. Hey, we're still using it. So it's kind of like a check-in, if you will. And as long as you keep checking in and showing, hey, I'm still using it, then you continue to maintain your ownership. Sorry, I'm talking all fast. But you will continue to maintain your ownership over it. So that's it. Simple.
The NBA playoffs are here, and I'm getting my bets in on FanDuel. Talk to me, Chuck GPT. What do you know?
All sorts of interesting stuff, even Charles Barkley's greatest fear.
Hey, nobody needs to know that.
New customers bet $5 to get $250 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
21 plus and present in Virginia. Must be first online real money wager. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey there, travelers. Kaylee Cuoco here. Sorry to interrupt your music, great artist BT Dubs, but wouldn't you rather be there to hear it live? With Priceline, you can get out of your dreams and into your dream concert. They've got millions of travel deals to get you to that festival, gig, rave, sound bath, or sonic experience you've been dreaming of. Download the Priceline app today, and you can save up to 60% off hotels and up to 50% off flights. So don't just dream about that trip. Book it with Priceline.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
And is it a fee for that, or you just literally have to go in there and be like, hey, I'm still using it?
No, it's a fee for everything. So
ain't nothing in this life free, huh?
yeah. So it's a fee for everything, yeah. But that's a good question.
Okay, and I had one more thing with trademarks before we move on in the contract.
You asked as many questions about trademarks.
It was, I know you in your bag with this stuff. You say you love it. I can see it. The passion is evident.
Yeah.
No, but one of the things you and I spoke about whenever we were at Flex's event as well was with the whole situation with Tasha K and trademarks as an asset. I never once thought about it that way, right? Whenever we were talking, people that don't know Tasha K, she's like a blogger type, gossip blogger. Yeah. Well, she keep getting sued for defamation of character, talking crazy about people. I think Kevin Hart just sued her as well.
Oh, wow.
I think he's intending to sue.
Yeah, like he threatened to sue her or something. I seen some headline. Because she was trying to get money out of him to not release an interview. That's neither here nor there, right? Yeah. But she got sued by Cardi B. She lost, and then she was saying she don't have no money to pay. So it kind of what you said earlier. You don't want to sue nobody with no money because then it's nothing. But you brought up a very interesting point when it came to the trademark, and the trademark is an asset that technically could be sued for. Like how would that work?
Yeah. So remember when we first started talking, we talked about the term intellectual property. So property. So you want to treat your intellectual property very similar to how you treat real property. So let's say this entire building that we're in right now, someone owns this, right? And so they can rent it out. They can tell people, no, you can't come in. They can stop people from using it. They can also sell it. And so whoever owns this building, let's say they get into some type of lawsuit, and then there's a huge judgment that they owe. Well, if I found out as an attorney that this is one of their assets, I'm a judgment creditor at that point. So then I can ask the court to force the sale of this asset to pay off the judgment that they owe me. And so your intellectual property is the same. It's an asset. So I don't know a whole lot about that person, but if they have a large brand to the point where someone might want to buy it, it might be worth forcing the sale of that intellectual property to pay the judgment. If she
don't want to sell it, I can force her to sell it?
Any asset. So that's why it's important not to lose a lawsuit. So if you lose a lawsuit and then there's a judgment against you, any assets that you have are on the hook. So whether that's real property, intellectual property, it doesn't matter. Cars. So think about it. When you're dealing with the IRS, for example, and you owe the IRS, what do they ask you? You own any cars? What do you own?
They want to know all your assets.
Yeah, so they will force the sale of it. So I seen a young lady on social media talking about the IRS doing this huge sale of stuff that they collected from people, and it was like Rolex watches, it was all type iPhones, it was a lot of stuff.
It's like the government liquidation / auction.
Yeah,
stuff.
so when they seize your property because you owe them, right? So it was all the way down to like people's iPhones. So it can get really petty if you wanted to. when you're trying to enforce a judgment.
Like, damn, I need that too. Give it here.
Yeah. So you can most definitely force the sale of someone's intellectual property.
Hey Siri, stop listening.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but that's crazy. So you could actually, and in that case, like obviously we don't know the value of her brand or if it's even trademark because I don't really know too much about her other than the fact that she keep getting sued for running off at the mouth. But whenever you shared it with me, I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like I didn't know that was a possibility that you could force people to sell their assets if in that type of situation.
Yeah. So any assets are at risk when you have a creditor, when you have somebody coming after you because you owe something, right? Yeah. So you just got to keep that in mind. So right now you guys have a trademark. So you have to look at the trademark like this is my property, right? You can license it out. You can send cease and desist letters to tell people to stop using it. You can also sell it. So if there was a huge judgment or something, Lord forbid, then that's always a possibility.
I do have one more question with trademark. I wanted to talk about trademarking internationally because right now we're talking about, U.S. based. What is it like to trademark internationally to protect yourself as well? Yeah,
so I've never done an international trademark, but the bigger brands, let's look at like say Nike, stuff like that.
Apple.
That's something that they do because they are international. And so, like, I think China is a big hub for it because a lot of people are over there doing things. But they have their own database similar to the USPTO, right? And so, like, if you were my client and you said, hey, Candice, we're expanding over to China and I want that protection. So then I would connect with counsel over in China and say, hey, yo, this is my client. We need this trademark done. And then we would get it done. Okay. So that's how it goes. Because you got to remember, every jurisdiction, when there's attorneys, you have to be allowed or approved and licensed to represent clients in that jurisdiction, right? So we want to make sure that you're not getting me in trouble because I'm going over in China filing trademarks. So that's just a little bit of humor. But you just find an attorney in that jurisdiction. I know Africa is really popular as well, like Ghana, Nigeria.
For the trademarks.
For trademarks, for integrating with us in the U.S., like working back and forth with clients and stuff like that. So it's possible, but you got to be strategic in the sense of, where do I need to file my international trademark? Because, I mean, you can file it anywhere in the world, right? But do you really need it over there?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now I kind of want to get into contracts. This has been a great conversation on trademarks. Y'all make sure y'all leave that rating and review because I know y'all got some value out of that. You know what I'm saying? So kind of hopping into the contracts, Candice. Like one of the things that I always like to ask attorneys, like what are some key terms or phrasing that you always look for whenever you're looking at business deals that people should watch out for? Like, you're just looking at a contract. What's like immediate red flags for you as an attorney?
Well, it's a lot of them. I know you guys were asking me earlier about courses, or I think that was another guy, but I actually did a whole course on reviewing business contracts because so many people just look at the money. Oh, they're supposed to pay me X amount of dollars, and then they sign. So it's horrible, and I wish more people would start doing a proper review of their contracts because it would save them a lot of headaches, right? So me as an attorney, there's a few different things I'm always looking for. The first one is jurisdiction, right? So jurisdiction, it's going to always be like a county and a state, right? A city and a state. And that's important because if we do need to file a lawsuit for breach of contract, that's the place where we have to file our lawsuit, right? So if I'm your attorney and I'm licensed here in Texas, you guys are physically here in Dallas, Texas. If you do a deal with someone and they put Los Angeles, California as a jurisdiction, so then that's where we have to play ball if we have to handle a lawsuit or defend ourselves from a lawsuit. We have to go over to Los Angeles, California's court system, right? So that puts us kind of at a disadvantage because now, I'm going to have to go and find you a LA attorney, or I'm going to have to get permission from LA to represent you on the case. And then B, that's their home state advantage, right? So jurisdiction is always important because it's going to save you a little bit of money when it comes to attorney fees and things like that. And then the traveling and all, all that stuff that goes on with litigation. So that's really important. Another thing is what we like to call a merger clause. And the merger clause is usually going to be at the very end of the contract, and it's basically saying that this contract is the complete agreement between us. So a lot of times when you're doing business, there's phone calls, there's emails, there's in-person conversations, and those conversations or communications might be different than what's in writing. So let's say we agree, I'm going to sell you, my puppy for $50 in person, but then I go home and something changes and we agree, no, I'm going to sell it to you for $20, right? So we have all these other external communications, but when you have a merger clause, it's saying none of that matters. Our complete agreement is what's right here in writing.
Black and white.
Yeah. So that's really important because a lot of times when it comes to lawsuits and stuff like that, people will try to bring in those external conversations to try to prove what the actual agreement was supposed to be or what it is, right? And so then they'll start bringing in emails. No, in the email we said this amount or whatever. So if you don't have that merger clause, then you run the risk of having to fight over what the agreement was supposed to be, right? So that's super important. And then one of my other favorite one is something called an indemnification clause. And that's important because it's basically, now you can do it both ways. You can do it for, you do one for me, you indemnify me, I indemnify you. However, when I'm reviewing a contract, I'm always making sure whoever my client is doing business with, they are indemnifying my client, right? So what it means is they're saying if any third parties have any claims against you because of my wrongdoing, I will protect you, meaning I will cover your litigation costs, your attorney fees, all that stuff. So a good example would be like intellectual property. If someone is doing a deal with my client and let's say they have a logo or something, but they stole the logo. If third parties try to come against my client for using that logo in this business deal, then this person is going to indemnify my client and protect them, right? And handle the lawsuit costs, the attorney fees, right?
Because it was their fault
in the first place. It was their fault, right? So any third party claims against my client, this other person in the contract is going to basically protect my client. So that's another good provision, just because you never know what stuff that people are in. We don't know if they stole some type of intellectual property. We just don't know, right? That's also really good in the logistics industry, because when you're doing business in the logistics industry, what if one of the trailers are stolen or something like that, right? So you always, just as a rule of thumb, you want to put the indemnification clause in just to fully protect yourself. So those are my top 3 that I'm always looking out for, but it's also so many.
I appreciate it. I learned a few things with them 3 right there, because that's the one thing that I've learned about contracts over time is that, like, they're very flexible. Like, at first I used to think very binary about contracts. It's cut and dry. It's like, whatever you want to put in there, you can put in there. It's just about making sure you have people who actually know how to read those things. So, like, I guess another question, follow up on that. What are some, like, legalese type terms that you notice that are often used to kind of, like, disguise things from people who may not be privy?
Yeah, and stuff like that. Anything that's like Latin based is gonna be a disguise, and I say that because in America, the law pretty much derived from like a Latin origin. So in law school, we're always, using the Latin phrases for different things. So it's a red flag if you see anything. Well, not a red flag per se, but it's just something you want to pay attention to. If you see anything that has like a Latin origin for the word or something like that, you want to take the time and say, wait a minute, what does this mean, right?
That's good. And I'm glad you kind of talked about you can put anything into a contract. What are some tips that you give your clients for whenever they're negotiating contracts, right? Maybe they might not like these terms. Like, how can you say, okay, maybe we can negotiate, they take this away, but they still feel comfortable with getting this deal done?
Yeah, it's always a give and take. So it depends on how severe the particular term that we don't want in there, how severe it is, the damage that it could possibly do to my client. So those are like some of the balancing factors that, you know, I'm talking through with
Let's
my
just
client.
say worst case scenario. What would be like the most severe, like, oh, you should not sign this?
So anything that's ambiguous is horrible. So if it says something like at my discretion, like I get to change the price at my discretion, that's a no-go, because you want to be as clear as possible on the terms of the agreement so that way it's no problems. So if you negotiate $500 an hour, then you expect to get $500 an hour for your services. But if it says I will pay you $500 an hour at my discretion, then that's bad. So I see a lot of that, those you know,
little
like
modifiers.
Yeah, those ambiguous terms, right? And so to the regular eye, the non-legal eye, people look over that. But me, I'm like, no, absolutely, we're not doing that. And so another good example for you, I had a client, she's really big in logistics, and she was doing a deal with a broker, but the broker's contract basically required her to list herself in the agreement as well, like as an individual, as well as her social security number, even though she already had an LLC.
Which would make her liable.
Right. So that was a huge, like, we'll have to walk away from this deal because the entire purpose of having an LLC is to shield yourself. So why would you knowingly insert yourself as an individual into the contract? So fortunately, we were able to negotiate it so that it was removed. But that's an example of like a absolute no. We can't move forward with this agreement, right? So it's really, really based like on a case by case basis, because I see some pretty interesting things in there. But like I said, some of the consistent things is the ambiguity, right? At my discretion, at my will, if I feel like it, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
nah, I need it to be like, this is like you say in that merger clause too. I think that's important. What we said in this agreement is what's on this agreement, right, and this is what's going to be binding us here. And I'm trying to think about another question, contracts wise. I know last time we discussed like a lot of the with LLC partnerships, you know, articles of organization, those types of things.
Oh, the operating agreement. We talked about the operating agreement. So that's really important as well. So when we create the legal entities, the entity becomes pretty much an individual, right? It becomes a person. Like, so that's how you have to like look at it. That's why it has the EIN number. It's kind of like
social. Yep.
Yeah, it's a person. That's how I look at it. So if I'm doing business with a person, the number one rule is we put our agreement in writing. So the operating agreement is the contract between you and the company, right?
Gotcha.
So a lot of people overlook that step because A, they don't know about it, and B, they just think it's not important. But it's really important, because if a lawsuit or something like that ever happened, that's one of the documents that I'm asking for in my discovery. I'm saying I want a copy of the operating agreement.
Because this is basically, the operating agreement is like your internal regulation for your business.
Yeah,
like
so it's going to tell me a lot about how things go. So, for example, if somebody has like a slip and fall at a store, right, and then, you know, it's this whole defense that the store has, well, it's our policy that we only check the floor once every hour, and she fell, you know, at this time, whatever. People get really crafty with defenses. So then the first thing I'm saying is, well, let me see the policy. Let me see the operating agreement. Let me see, you know, like all this stuff. Let me see your training manuals and things like that, right? But the operating agreement is the first contract between you and your company, right? If the company gets dissolved, how does it get dissolved? Who gets paid first? Stuff like that. Creditors get paid first. And then when it comes to multiple members, that's where I see a lot of the disputes come in with not having the operating agreement. Because if we have multiple owners of the company, well, if somebody decides, hey, I don't want to be a part of this anymore, then how do we go about paying them out? Do we pay them anything when they're leaving? Are they allowed to get someone to replace them as an owner? Like, it's so many different things that kind of come up in people's mind, right? So to avoid any like confusion, the operating agreement lays out everything. It lays out if you're able to, you know, do some of those things I just mentioned. You had a question?
Yeah, if the operating agreement, if you don't do one, isn't it like the default thing you get is like the state's default operating agreement or
the
something?
Texas Business Organizations Code, right? So the thing is, that's a vast code. It's large. So you wouldn't know whether or not it's a provision in there that's going to be for or against what you're trying to do. So that's why it's best to just draft your own operating agreement and you read it. All members of the company sign it. So you guys all know, like, this is the procedure that we're going to follow, right? This is what I'm entitled to. And then the operating agreement also solidifies your liability, right? So we always have a provision in there that says from the company, right? If it's Shantell law, I agree to indemnify Candice, right? I agree to protect Candice. She is not liable for any debts of the company, right? So those are some of the things that most people don't really think through when they create the legal entity, but it's super important.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I can see you guys, y'all head like.
Yeah, I got 1,000,001 questions, but I'm trying to stay focused.
What you got?
But no, I was going. We kind of getting on time.
Yeah,
so
I really wanted to ask her. Like, I wanted to jump back into what she was talking about earlier. Whenever she said she did like $30K the first month opening her business.
Okay, yeah.
I kind of just wanted to get into the business side of things for you. Were you doing this as a solo lawyer? Like, what did that look like once you actually started to form your, firm?
Yeah, so when I first started, I was doing everything on my own, everything. And that's why I think mentors are so important, because you model yourself after your mentor. Excuse me. So for me, early on, my mentor did everything himself, right? He didn't have a paralegal. He didn't have someone answering the phone, but he does crazy numbers, crazy numbers. But he didn't have kids. At that time, he wasn't married, so I guess he just had a lot of energy. So I did everything on my own initially, and then over time, I was like, wait a minute, this is too much.
I'm living in the ghetto. I ain't get a job to work this way. I ain't build a business to work 24/7.
Exactly. So then I started outsourcing. I need some assistants, need the paralegals, all that good stuff. So it was a process for me, but I definitely had to realize that just because they're doing everything doesn't mean I have to.
Gotcha.
So, but early on, I definitely was thugging it out, and it was fun
hustling.
too. It was fun.
And I got a question. So, with making this money, were you just doing making contracts? Were you actually helping them dispute lawsuits? What was that first businesses for you that helped you kind of build your foundation?
Yeah. So early on, it was a lot of entity formation.
Gotcha.
So back then, people weren't. You know how nowadays people are just coming into the knowledge of trademarks? It was kind of like that when I first started my firm. People were coming into the knowledge of, I need an LLC or a corporation. So I was getting so many of those. And then on top of that, I would get some business owners who would run into some type of personal injury issue, right? So they'll be like, hey, I got into a car accident, Candice. And because I'm the only attorney they know, even though it's from a business point, they would come to me for personal injury. So then I started getting into that a little bit as well. And then it just took off. But yeah.
Personal injury pretty good money too.
Personal injury is great money.
I always see all them damn billboards.
Gotta be the biggest law category for sure in terms of I know in Louisiana,
man, the billboards,
it's crazy. They literally had to pass a law against all them billboards.
Really?
Yeah, cause what's his name? Morris Bart was the name of the lawyer. You getting free promo on this one. Don't expect it again. He had so many back to back or something like that. I think it was a 10-mile stretch where it was just
from Baton Rouge to New Orleans.
Just his face on billboards, personal injury law. So I know it's a huge category in law.
It is.
And shit, we deal with it on the insurance side of things, on the justice side. So yeah, definitely. It's a bag over there. It's a bag a lot of places, but law, insurance, that's the industries I'm noticing.
But you got to think about it. Some people are always hurting themselves, right? Whether it's a car accident, slip and fall, whether it's a dog bite while you was at somebody's house or whatever, people are always getting injured in some type of way. And so it's always money to be made, right? Especially if whoever the defendant is has insurance. So it's a huge industry. So that's kind of how I started getting into it, because people, you know, my business clients would come to me and be like, Miss Candice, I got into a car accident. What am I supposed to do? You know? And so I'm like, well, let me kind of see what's going on here and check this out. And it's pretty
if they
simple.
had like a valid claim too. Like, you know, you got, it's not like rocket science. If somebody hit you, they was at fault, you got hurt.
Yeah, pay that man.
Yeah.
pay that money.
Yep, it can be very straightforward. Did you have another?
Nah, I just was trying to figure out how it was for you in the beginning, starting off your firm.
Yeah, it was exciting. Phone. I remember my phone was, you know, after a couple of months, my phone was always ringing. It just was real.
How'd you
exciting.
manage it being a mom?
I had a strict schedule, and I had to go back to kind of how I was in law school, right? So in law school, I told you we started off with 7 classes. I worked part-time for the university's Office of General Counsel. Aside from that, I had my own clients. They call it in Illinois 7-11 license, where you get a license to practice law under the supervision of another attorney. So I had my own clients in Rockford, Illinois, doing that. Was a mom, girlfriend, like all this stuff. And so I just had a tight schedule. I'm like, okay, I wake up at this time, I do this at this time, my baby's going to bed at this time, you know. And so once I started my firm, I had to incorporate the same principles, and still do to this day. Like, I have a tight schedule. I'm doing this at this time, you know. And it's been helpful so far. Well, yeah, I'm sure you guys have tight schedules, right?
I ain't got no kids yet, but we stay busy over here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We appreciate you taking some time out your tight schedule to come rock with us today.
Now, Miss Business Lawyer, we're gonna get into some of the tail end of the podcast. Man, I need the next level up of questions, man.
You already saw some of the questions though. So we about to do standing on business. We about to do standing on business.
Okay.
So I'll let you intro the segment, Jalen.
We're doing standing on business presented by the Private Small Business Society. The Private Small Business Society is focused on giving certifications to business owners and setting the standard for small business in America, because there's no America without small businesses. Hey, Jake would be proud of me right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Where is Jake? He was in.
He's somewhere.
But anyway, I don't have the questions put up on my phone, so I'm gonna let you open the
So we're gonna do 5 questions. We're gonna do rapid fire, and let me make sure you can't sing.
Okay.
I feel like you got this. I feel like you're a smarty. I feel like you're a smarty pants.
Yeah, you know, she graduated like Dean's List top of the class. I feel like she gonna crush this one. I ain't gonna lie.
I was doing good on the questions you asked the other ones. I was over there like, C, A.
See, I feel like we need the next level up questions.
Let's start off slow. What does ROI stand for in business?
Return on investment.
We don't need the multiple choice for that one. Yeah. Ding, 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 101. Let's go.
Which of the following is an example of a tangible asset?
Okay.
A, brand reputation. B, employee skills. Or C, manufacturing equipment. I'll repeat the question.
Tangible
Which of the is an example of a tangible asset? A, brand reputation.
No.
B, employee skills. Or C, manufacturing equipment.
C.
There you got it.
Yeah.
2 for 2. Let's see what else we got.
I thought she was gonna try to trip up with the other one.
I was like, employee skills.
Yeah.
Which of the following is a key component of effective marketing? A, focusing solely on traditional advertising. B, ignoring online marketing channels. Or C, understanding and targeting the right audience.
I think it's C, but wait, read it to me again. What was the question?
Which of the following is a key component of effective marketing?
Key component. And so A was
focusing solely on traditional advertising. B, ignoring online marketing channels. Or C, understanding and targeting the right audience.
I think it's C.
Hey, gotta say it with your chest.
3 or 3. Let's go.
C or A, but I'm like, A, that don't sound right.
Okay. 4, question number 4. What is the primary purpose of a business plan? A, to guide the operational strategy of a business. B, to keep track of employee performance. C, to calculate the exact profit margin. Or D, to monitor social media trends.
A or C. Now read it again. What was the question?
Okay. What is the primary purpose of a business plan?
A business plan, okay.
A, to guide the operational strategy of a business. And I'll read C for you again. To calculate the exact profit margin.
No, it's A.
Hey.
Yeah.
4 for 4, like
four.
Wendy's, but
Let's
better.
see.
You already know. Look. Hey, she crushing it right now. She might be our first 5 for 5 standing on business. Like I said, we need the next level up.
I do
man.
need a next level up. What does B2B stand for in business terminology? She know this. She like business to business, back to basics. Yeah, back to basics. Business to buyer or born to bill.
You said
who the fuck put that last one in there?
It's a question.
Born to bill.
What does B2B stand for in business terminology?
Okay. A.
Business to business. B. Back to basics. C. Business to buyer. Or D. Born to bill.
It's definitely D, bro.
Business to buyer.
Oh,
we got her.
No.
It's the first one is A.
Yes, it's definitely.
That's what I said. We
business
got
to
her.
business.
Got him. 4 for 5.
Yeah.
Standing on business. I love it,
This
though.
was great, though.
I love it,
This
though.
was great.
So listen,
those
y'all,
questions.
this was brought to you again by the Private Small Business Society, focused on educating business owners and professionals, professional development and certifications. Y'all tap the link in the show notes to learn more about it. If you like the Standing on Business segment, if you learn something every time, you know, Miss Candice, she is a beast at when it comes to this goddamn trademarking and all this stuff. But you see, still, when it comes to these questions, some of these things is just basic business knowledge. So if you're one of them people that's like, you know, I've been able to build a business, still, you can still find value in this. So y'all tap that down there. Check out the Private Small Business Society. I think it's a lot of different levels, and if y'all haven't already listened to our episode with Jake,
Yeah, y'all go check
get more
that out.
information on that. All right. Now to get into our last little questions for you, Candice, we're gonna keep holding.
Okay.
We're gonna keep holding you. We got our last little rapid fire that we like to get off.
Okay.
So I want to ask you the question that I ask everybody. What is a financial tip or principle that you live by that you like to share with our audience?
Oh, I like that question. For me, my principle is multiple streams of income.
Okay.
Super simple. But I think that a lot of times people get zoned in on their main income, whereas I like to kind of diversify. Even if it's something unrelated to law, at least I still have an income coming in. So, for example, you know, you got extra cars sitting around, put them on Turo, you know. So stuff like that. So multiple streams of income.
Okay. Second question. Are you frugal or are you a flexer?
Both.
I'm a frugal flexer.
I was about to say she's a fruglexer.
People be thinking I spend a lot of money on an outfit or something. I'll be like, you'd be surprised where I got this from. I just make it look good.
You make it look good.
Yeah, I feel like I flex when it's something worthwhile. So, for example, hotels. I'm not staying at a raggedy hotel. It got to be a 5-star. So.
I understand. I feel you on that. You know what I can't do on hotels? I ain't a 5-star nigga. I ain't gonna try to act like that. But like outdoor hallways. I can't do hotels with outdoor hallways.
Like a hotel looking.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting set up. Like somebody about to come rob me. Nah, I can't do that.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Fuck that. Last question. Do you have life insurance?
I do. I got a few of them, yeah.
Okay, she got a few of them. Hey, I love it. Everybody been having life insurance lately. Yeah. Hey, if y'all don't have it, make sure y'all get it. Protect yourself. It's Candice.
Or we coming and get y'all. So
I don't know about that. I'm not coming to get y'all. I'll let David handle that. But Miss Candice, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. This was a fun show. Could you please let the people know where can they follow you? Where can they access?
Yeah, they want to get the legal services. You know,
all
what
of
I'm saying?
that. Yeah, so all of my social medias are Attorney Candice, and then as far as if you want to contact my law firm, you can call us at 844-480-0480. And then you'll just call, you'll talk to one of my assistants, and you just let us know what you need, and then we'll get back in touch and help you out.
And that's in Texas, right?
In Texas.
Real businesses.
But
doing
I
real
represent
things.
business owners throughout the U.S. So when it comes to contracts, trademarks, remember trademarks are federal. Contracts, trademarks, formation of legal entities, I got clients throughout the U.S.
Awesome. Well, again, Candice,
sure y'all
I
get with
appreciate it. Y'all make sure y'all
Thanks
get
for
with
having
her. Y'all value this information. Y'all know what y'all got to do for me. Don't be a hoe. Leave a 5-star rating. Leave a review. Share this with somebody who is building a business, who needs this information. Candice, again, got to say thank you. And Jalen, you got anything else for the people?
Nah, man, I ain't got nothing else. Y'all just stay tapped in for what we got for the rest of this year. We're going to have some excitement going on.
Yeah, we might be coming to a city near you. So if you want to see us in a city near you, y'all make sure y'all stay tuned in to us on Instagram and shoot us an email, DM. We're trying to gauge interest, see what we're going to hit. But
respond to the email when you get it. Respond to the surveys, all of that. We need that.
Well, until next time, family.
Stop having
Black
doubts.
Renaissance.
And what's the point of having clout if you can't cash it out?
McDonald's has entered a Minecraft movie universe, and Grimace, Birdie, and Hamburglar just spawned as new collectibles as part of a Minecraft movie meal with your choice of Big Mac or 10-piece chicken McNuggets with spicy nether flame sauce.
Participate in McDonald's for a limited time. A Minecraft movie only in theaters.